Alright, we're back. Today we are going to learn about absolute values. And if today's picture is brought to you by the graphic novel and the motion picture called V for Vendetta. It's a really cool movie. It is rated R, so you have to ask your parents if you want to watch it, but it's a really neat movie. Anywho, we're gonna move on. And the connection would be that the V for Vendetta is very heavily in the V theme. And though you don't know what an absolute value is yet, when you graph an absolute value, the shape is a V, and that is the connection. Moving on. Absolute values. We can define the absolute value as the distance between a number and zero. So if you take the absolute value of any number, you're talking about how far away it is from zero. Now, it looks like, because in math class there has to be symbols for everything. It looks like two vertical lines around a number. So here's a couple of examples. Okay, so we have this is read as the absolute value of 8. It's 8 in between two vertical lines, so those vertical lines mean absolute value. This is read as the absolute value of -5 because there's a -5 in between two vertical lines. This fun thing right here is read as the absolute value of 2 minus 12 because 2 minus 12 is in between the two vertical lines. Okay, so let's take a look at sort of where this absolute value thing comes from, which means we have to look at a number line. Here we go. All right, so let's just pick a number like 6, okay? So we're chilling at the 6 spot right here. And we want to know what its absolute value is, okay? So what does that mean? The absolute value of 6 is how far away it is from 0. So how far away is 6 from 0? Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the absolute value of 6, how far away it is from 0, is 6. Which is kind of, we knew this already. We know that if any positive number, any number that's on this side of your number line, whatever its value is, so if we were to pick the number, say, 9, okay? 9, positive 9 means that this dot right here is 9 units away from 0. So really, any positive number, the absolute value of it will just be the number itself, which is kind of nice. So if I wanted to know what the absolute value of, say, 3 is. How far away is 3 from 0? 1, 2, 3. Oh, look at that. It's 3. So any positive number actually acts very nicely when you're talking about the absolute value. It's just itself. Now the fun part is when we start to get into negative numbers, which we're going to deal with in 1 second. Let me just erase all this stuff. Okay, let's look at what a negative number looks like when we're taking its absolute value. Let's pick a negative number like, let's say -4. Okay. We want to know what the absolute value of -4 is, which means we want to know how far away -4 is from 0. Well, let's count. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So the absolute value of -4, how far away it is from 0, is equal to 4 spaces. It is 4 spaces away from 0. Okay, so what do you notice here? Like the positive number, like any positive number, when you take its absolute value, the number stays the same. So I had a 4 inside here, I have a 4 outside here. But what happened? What changed? When I take the absolute value of a negative, that negative goes away. This negative right here is no longer here. This is just a positive 4 right here. There's no negative sign. And why? Because when we're talking about the absolute value, we're not concerned about which direction the number line is going. Remember that negative solely means that you're going in the left direction on the number line, and positive means you're going in the right direction. We don't care about direction. All we care about is what's the distance between a number and 0. And when we're talking about the distance or the magnitude of a number, we only really care about how far away it is from 0. We don't care whether it's in the negative direction or the positive direction. So something you notice now is that when you take the absolute value of any number, your absolute value is always going to be positive because you're only measuring distance. You're not measuring direction. Okay? So it doesn't matter whether I have a value that's all the way out here in -10 land. negative 10 is still 10 units away from 0. So the absolute value of negative 10, how far away negative 10 is from 0, is still 10 units. It's not negative 10 units because, again, that's not a distance. Negative 10 isn't a distance. 10 is a distance. You can measure out 10 inches, 10 centimeters, 10 feet. You can't measure out negative 10 centimeters or negative 10 feet. So when we're talking about absolute value, we're talking about solely the distance between a number and 0 on the number line. In shorthand, the absolute value of any number is just the positive value of the number. Okay? So let's take a look at some numbers without a number line. Let's go back to our examples before. The absolute value of 8. So how far away is 8 from 0 on a number line? It's a positive number, so the distance between 0 and a positive number is just the number itself, 8. 8 is 8 units away from 0. What about negative 5? How far away is negative 5 from 0? Well, it's going to be 5 away from 0 in the negative direction, but we don't care about which direction it's in. We only care about how far away it is from 0. And negative 5 is 5 units away from 0. Okay, now this one. This is the fun one. The absolute value of 2 minus 12. Okay, well, what you do when you see something that's not just a number on the inside, when you see some more, some action, there's some fun stuff going on inside of here. We have to figure out what all this stuff is. So we actually have to kind of condense it. Right now we're kind of treating our absolute value signs as parentheses. We gotta fix everything that's on the inside so that we can then figure this thing out. So can we do 2 minus 12? Absolutely. We just learned that we can turn subtractions into additions. So 2 minus 12 would be keep the 2, change the change the subtraction sign into an addition sign, and I changed my positive 12 into a negative 12. And now I have 2 plus negative 12. If I have 2 positive soldiers and 12 negative soldiers and they do battle, these 2 soldiers are going to get killed off, and it's going to take 2 of the negative soldiers to kill them off. So we're going to be left with, after the battle is done, 10 negative soldiers. Negative 10. Okay, so now that we've simplified this stuff on the inside of the absolute value signs, we have the absolute value of negative 10. So how far away is negative 10 from 0? Well, we could either use that rule that says every absolute value has to be positive, or if you want to actually draw a number line, you could see that negative 10 is the distance of 10 units away from 0. Okay? So, can they look a little bit more complicated? Yeah. What happens when you get something like this? The negative absolute value of 4. Okay, well, again, kind of treat your absolute values as parentheses. What happens when you take the absolute value of 4? Just forget this negative sign out there for a second. What happens when you take the absolute value of 4? What are you left with? How far away is 4 from 0? 4 is 4 away from 0. Now, if it was just the absolute value of 4, no problem. You'd have the answer already. But no, you have this negative sign right here. Guess what happens to that negative sign? You carry it down. So we took the absolute value of 4. We found that it was just 4 itself. We did this first. We got 4. And then we added this little negative sign right there. We brought it down because you can't forget about it. Got to bring it down. So the negative absolute value of 4 is negative 4. I leave you with something to ponder. What would this be? The negative absolute value of negative 23. If you think you know the answer, bring it in. Once again, just to make sure you understand, this is negative absolute value of negative 23. These are not ones. These are absolute value signs. Okay? Don't want you to get confused. Okay? So bring that into class tomorrow and we'll talk about what the negative absolute value of negative 23 is. Okay? That concludes this note-taking session.